17-year-old Clara Voss didn't die in the fire, but what happened next was worse. 1 minute, she was a star student at Ravenswood Academy, a boarding school so exclusive even the trees seemed to guard its secrets. The next, hikers found her burning alive in the forest, her screams echoing like a warning. 6 months later, her best friend's body turned up buried in a desert, her phone filled with photos of a shadowy figure the FBI called the Painter, a ghost who left behind no fingerprints, only masterpieces of terror. But here's what keeps investigators awake at night. Clara survived. And whatever burned her that day, it wasn't just the fire. October 12, 2023, Black Pine Forest. A place so quiet, they say you can hear snowflakes land. But that day, the silence shattered. 2 hikers, a retired teacher and her son, froze mid-step, not because of the cold, because of a scream. A raw, guttural sound, like bones breaking and lungs collapsing at the same time. They followed it, stumbling over roots, hearts pounding, until the smell hit them first. Burnt hair, charred flesh, and there she was, 17-year-old Clara Voss, crawling through the underbrush, her body swallowed by flames. Alive, the firefighters called it a miracle. The doctors called it impossible. 3rd-degree burns covered 80% of her skin, yet she survived. But Clara never spoke again. Not a word about why she'd vanished from Ravenswood Academy, her elite boarding school for diplomats' children. Not a word about the cryptic text she'd sent her roommate hours before. They found the paintings. Don't trust the gallery. 6 months later, her best friend, Mariam Al-Farsi, daughter of a Bahraini ambassador, would board a bus to Tucson, Arizona. She'd step off into a dust storm, vanish, and reappear 3 days later, buried in the Sonoran Desert. Her hands, clutching a phone filled with deleted photos of a shadowy figure the FBI dubbed the Painter. But here's the detail that split embassies and erased headlines. The night before Clara burned, security cameras at Ravenswood caught her arguing with a man in a black coat. His face? Blurred. His shoes? Caked in red sand. The kind you only find in one place, the Negev Desert. A place Mariam's father had just been recalled from after a diplomatic incident involving stolen artifacts. Clara's fire was ruled an accident. Mariam's death, a kidnapping gone wrong. But ask the right people, and they'll tell you, some fires aren't meant to be put out. They're meant to destroy evidence. Clara Voss wasn't supposed to survive. Let's start there. Ravenswood Academy doesn't enroll students, it curates them. The children of ambassadors, senators, CEOs, a place where your last name buys silence, and your grades better justify the $70,000 tuition. Clara, she was top of her class, fluent in Arabic and Mandarin, a cellist good enough for Juilliard. But on October 12th, she became something else, a medical anomaly, a ghost story. Firefighters found her half a mile deep in Black Pine Forest. Her uniform melted into her skin, her hair still sparking. 3rd-degree burns are supposed to kill you. Not just from pain, your body turns on itself. Organs shut down, but Clara's vitals held. Surgeons grafted skin from her scalp, her thighs, even the soles of her feet. When she woke up, she didn't cry, didn't ask for her parents, just stared at the ceiling, her eyes glazed like frosted glass. The police called it a tragic accident, a campfire gone wrong. But here's what didn't add up. Ravenswood security logs showed Clara swiping out of the dorms at 2:13 a.m. The forest? A 90-minute hike from campus. So why was there no dirt under her nails? No sweat on her clothes? And why? Hours before she vanished, did she text her roommate, Sophia, for words that'd later vanish from the school's servers? They found the paintings. Sophia told investigators Clara had been obsessed with an art exhibit weeks earlier. Works by a reclusive painter known only as J. Dark. Chaotic pieces. One showed a girl with flames licking her wrists, her face blurred. Another, a desert scorpion with human eyes. The gallery claimed J was anonymous, untraceable, but Clara's journal hinted otherwise. On the last page, scribbled in shaky handwriting, J isn't a person, it's a receipt. And then there's the burn patterns. Forensic analysts couldn't explain it. Clara's body was scorched head to toe, except for her left palm. Unburnt, pristine, as if she'd been clutching something or someone had let go. Ravenswood's headmaster called it a random tragedy. The State Department called it closed. But Clara's mother, in her only interview, said this: "My daughter didn't run away. She was erased. and whoever did it made sure she'd never speak again. 6 months later, they'd do the same to her best friend. 6 months after Clara Voss burned, her best friend, Miriam Al-Farsi, did something reckless. She bought a one-way bus ticket to Tucson, Arizona. Not the kind of thing a 17-year-old daughter of a Bahraini ambassador does without warning. But Miriam wasn't just any diplomat's kid. She was Clara's shadow, her twin in secrets, and she was about to disappear into a storm. Let's break this down. April 3rd, 2024. 8:17 a.m. Miriam leaves her dorm at Ravenswood Academy. Security cameras catch her wearing a black hoodie. No backpack, no luggage, just a phone in her hand. She walks 6 blocks to the bus station, buys a ticket with cash, boards the 8:45 a.m. Greyhound to Tucson. And that's the last time anyone sees her alive. 3 days later, a Border Patrol helicopter spots something in the Sonoran Desert. Not a body, a patch of sand that's too smooth, too perfect. They dig. 6 feet down, they find Miriam. Her hands are bound with piano wire. Her mouth stuffed with a silk scarf, the same shade of crimson as the Ravenswood Academy crest. But here's what they found next to her, a phone, buried just inches above her body, as if someone wanted it to be found. The last photo on that phone, taken 2 hours before Miriam boarded the bus. A grainy shot of a black SUV parked outside Ravenswood's gates. The driver's window is rolled down. A hand rests on the edge of the door, pale, slender, with a ring on the pinky finger, a gold ring with a black stone. The same ring Clara's father wore in his official embassy photo. But here's the problem. Clara's father died in a car crash 3 years earlier. The last call on the phone, made at 8:32 a.m., seconds after Miriam bought her bus ticket. A 12-second call to an unlisted number. Investigators traced it to a landline in Washington, D.C., a line owned by the Saudi embassy. When asked, the embassy denied all contact with Miriam, called it a technical error, a wrong number. But phone records show that same number had received 23 calls from Ravenswood Academy in the past year. All from payphones, all under 20 seconds. Now, let's rewind. 2 weeks before Miriam vanished, she and Clara did something strange. They skipped school, took a train to New York City, visited an art gallery in Chelsea. The exhibit? J. Echoes in Ash, a collection of paintings described as haunting and cursed by critics. One piece showed a girl kneeling in a desert, her hands digging into the sand. Another, a figure standing in a burning forest, their face melting like wax. But the most disturbing piece? A portrait of 2 girls, one with flames for hair, the other with sand pouring from her eyes. The gallery owner claimed he'd never met Jay. The paintings arrived in unmarked crates, cash payments left in envelopes. No contracts, no names. But Miriam's phone had a deleted email draft, dated the night before her trip to Tucson. It read, "I know what you did to Clara. Meet me, or I'll expose Jay to the world." The recipient? A garbled email address, jh313@blackgate.net, a domain that doesn't exist. Forensics found 2 things on Miriam's body that didn't make the news. First, sand. Not Sonoran Desert sand. Older, grittier, mixed with traces of limestone and salt. The kind found in the Negev Desert, a stretch of Israeli wilderness where Miriam's father had been stationed years earlier. Second, a single strand of hair, dyed platinum blonde, tangled in the piano wire around her wrists. Ravenswood's records show only one student with that hair color, Anya Petrova, daughter of a Russian oil magnate. But Anya had an alibi. She was in Moscow the day Miriam died. Then there's the burns. Not on Miriam, on her phone. The back of the device was scorched in a perfect handprint. Too large to be Miriam's, too small to be an adult's. And when analysts enhanced the SUV photo, they spotted something in the reflection of the vehicle's window. A flicker of orange light, a flame, frozen in pixels. The official report called Miriam's death a kidnapping gone wrong, a targeted attack tied to her father's work. But Clara's mother leaked the autopsy findings to a journalist. Cause of death? Suffocation, but not from the scarf. Miriam's lungs were filled with fine desert sand, as if she'd been breathing it for hours before she died. And Ravenswood Academy? They scrubbed Miriam's name from the student database, removed her photo from the yearbook, even bleached her locker. But they missed one thing. 2 days after her funeral, a janitor found a note tucked inside an air vent in Clara's old dorm room. It said, "Jay isn't the painter. He's the paint. Miriam's father resigned from his ambassadorial post a week later, gave no explanation, moved to a private island, and the Saudi embassy? They closed their DC landline, shredded their phone logs, but not before one investigator made a connection. That unlisted number, the one Miriam called, had been dialed 17 times in the past decade, always on October 12th, the day Clara burned. So let's ask the obvious. What happens when a ghost from a desert calls a ghost from a fire? Who hangs up first? And why bury a phone if you want it to be found? Maybe some messages aren't meant to be heard. Maybe they're meant to burn. 2 weeks after Miriam's body was found, Interpol got a tip, an anonymous email with coordinates to a loft in Paris. 3rd arrondissement, Rue de Turin. The message read, "Jay left you a gift." They raided the place at dawn. No brushes, no paint, no canvases, just a single wooden easel in the center of the room. On it, a fingerprint, fresh, belonging to a man named Lars Winter, a Swedish national who supposedly died in a boating accident in 1997. But here's the problem. Lars Winter never existed. His passport? Fake. His birth certificate? Forged. Even his death records were fabricated. The fingerprint was a ghost's autograph. Back in the US, Ravenswood Academy made 3 phone calls. Expulsions. They called it. 3 students gone overnight. Lena Al-Sad, daughter of a Saudi prince. Irina Volkova, daughter of a Russian oil oligarch. Grace Monroe, daughter of a US senator. No explanations. No hearings. Just black SUVs pulling up to the dorms at 3 a.m. and the girls vanishing into tinted windows. When reporters asked why, the school said, "Privacy matters." The families said, "No comment." The State Department said, "Move along." But Clara's mother, Eleanor Voss, didn't move along. She held a press conference on the steps of the Capitol. No podium, no notes, just a single photo in her hand. She held it up to the cameras, a painting of a figure writhing in blue fire, their face twisted in agony. The signature in the corner? A smudged J. "This isn't art," she said. "It's a threat. My daughter didn't survive a fire. She survived a message. And these girls," she tossed a list of names into the crowd. "They know who delivered it. The names? Lena, Irina, Grace." The next day, the FBI released a statement. No evidence links the expelled students to Clara Voss or Mariam Al-Farsi. But they forgot to mention one thing. 3 days before the raid on JS Paris loft, Lena Al-Sad's credit card was used to book a flight to France. Business class, seat 14A. The same day, Irina Volkova's Instagram posted a photo of the Eiffel Tower, geotagged to a cafe 3 blocks from Rue de Turin. The timestamp? 9:13 a.m. Interpol's raid began at 9:15. Grace Monroe's alibi was simpler. She was at a horse race in Kentucky, but security footage showed her sneaking into the stables halfway through the event. 10 minutes later, a barn camera caught a figure in a black hoodie burning something in a trough. The fire department found charred fabric, red silk, the same shade as the scarf stuffed in Miriam's mouth. Then there's the painting Eleanor Voss held up. Blue fire. Chemists say blue flames are the hottest. They can melt steel. But Clara's burns? Normal. Orange-yellow. So why did Jay paint blue fire? Maybe because the girl in the painting isn't Clara. Maybe it's someone else. Someone still out there. The Saudi embassy called Eleanor's claims baseless. The Kremlin said dangerous fiction. The senator's office threatened lawsuits. But Eleanor didn't back down. She leaked Ravenswood's security logs to an independent journalist. The logs showed Lena, Irina, and Grace swiping into the art wing at 1 a.m. the night Clara disappeared. The art wing's camera? Malfunctioning. The janitor? On sudden leave. Interpol tried to trace JS paintings. Galleries in Paris, New York, Dubai, all claimed they'd received the works anonymously. Cash payments in unmarked envelopes. But a curator in Berlin slipped up. He told a reporter the paintings smelled like smoke. Not with smoke. Burning plastic. Like a car fire. And then there's Lars Winter, the ghost behind the fingerprint. A week after the raid, a retired Norwegian detective emailed Interpol. He'd seen Lars' name in a 1983 cold case, a warehouse fire in Oslo that killed 7 people. The only survivor? A boy, age 12, who told police the flames were blue. His name wasn't Lars Winter. It wasn't in the records at all. So let's piece this together. A painter who doesn't exist. 3 girls who know too much. A fire that isn't just a fire. But the biggest question isn't who Jay, It's what happens next. Because 2 months ago, a package arrived at Eleanor Voss' doorstep. No return address. Inside, a small canvas, a painting of a forest, burning in blue flames, and in the center, a figure with scars running down their arms, a figure holding a phone. Eleanor burned the painting, but that night, her smoke alarm went off. Firefighters found nothing, just a faint smell of burnt silk. And on her porch, a single footprint. The tread matched a boot sold exclusively to the Saudi military. The State Department called it a prank. Eleanor called it a promise. And Ravenswood Academy? It's silent, empty, the gates chained. But neighbors say they've seen lights on in the art wing. Flashes of blue, flickering, like a flame that won't die. 2 weeks ago, Clara Voss walked out of Mercy General Hospital. Not in a wheelchair, not with a nurse. She just left. Her doctors called it against medical advice. Her mother called it the only choice she had left. Clara's face, once the kind you'd see on a prep school brochure, bright eyes, a smile that made you trust her, is now a map of scars. Thick, ropey lines cutting across her cheeks. Her lips, forever parted in a silent gasp. She can't blink her left eye. The nurses said she'd stare at the wall for hours, tracing her fingers over the burns like they were braille. But here's what the discharge papers don't say. The night before she left, Clara ripped out her tore the heart monitor off her chest. Security footage shows her standing at the hospital's back exit, barefoot in a gown, staring at something off camera. When the guard asked her what she was doing, she didn't turn, just raised her left hand, the unburnt one, and pointed west, toward Ravenswood Academy. The next day, she walked home, 6 miles. No shoes, no coat. Neighbors saw her shuffling down the sidewalk, her head down, her hands clutching a plastic hospital bag. One woman offered her a ride. Clara didn't look up, just kept walking. But that night, the black SUV showed up, parked across the street from Clara's house. Engine running, no plates, no lights. A neighbor's Ring camera caught the driver's silhouette, a man in a hoodie, face hidden. He sat there for 3 hours, left at 2:17 a.m. The next night, he came back, and the next, always around midnight, always gone by dawn. Clara's mother called the police. They said they'd look into it. 2 officers drove by once. The SUV was gone by then. They found nothing. Meanwhile, 200 miles north, Ravenswood Academy was being erased. The school closed for renovations last month. But construction crews aren't renovating, they're demolishing. Bulldozers tore through the library. Wrecking balls smashed the dorms. And when workers entered the girls' wing, they found something that made them quit. The walls, every inch, floor to ceiling, covered in charcoal sketches. Not graffiti, not doodles, detailed drawings. All of fire, flames devouring trees, flames melting faces, flames twisting into words. Jay sees you. But the strangest sketch? A girl standing in a hospital gown, her back to the viewer. Ahead of her, a road splits in two. One path leads to a desert, the other, to a forest. Above her, a black SUV hangs in the sky like a vulture. And in the corner, smudged in ash, Jay, the crew foreman, snapped photos, sent them to his boss. By noon, the site was shut down. The workers were paid double to stay quiet. But one guy talked, said the sketches felt fresh, like they'd been drawn days ago, not months. And the charcoal? It wasn't normal. It smeared like grease, stank like gasoline. Clara's mother hired a private investigator. He found 3 things: tire tracks outside their home. The tread matched a model used by the Saudi military. A Ravenswood janitor's pay stub, dated a week after the school closed. A voicemail from an unknown number. Just 5 seconds of static, and a voice whispering blue fire. The investigator quit the next day. Told Clara's mother, "This isn't a case. It's a curse." Then, for days ago, Clara did something unexpected. She opened her laptop, typed one word into the search bar: Nejaf, the desert where Miriam's father once worked. The search led to a news article from 2017, a wildfire that wiped out a Bedouin village. The cause? Never determined. The photos? Lost. But in the comments, a user named J313 had written, "Fire is the purest form of memory." Clara's mother found her in the kitchen that night. Clara was standing at the sink, her hands submerged in water, not washing, not moving, just staring at her reflection. When her mother touched her shoulder, Clara flinched. looked up, and for the first time since the forest, she made a sound, not a word, a whimper, like a dog kicked too many times. The next morning, the SUV was gone, but in its place, a package sat on the porch. No postage, no note. Inside, a small canvas, a painting of a girl with scars, standing at a crossroads. One path burns, the other drowns, and in the sky, a vulture with a gold ring in its beak. Clara's mother burned the painting, watched it curl to ash in the fireplace. But when the flames died, something remained in the grate. A scrap of paper, unharmed. 2 words: choose soon. Ravenswood Academy is now a pile of rubble. The demolition crew refused to finish the job, said the site gave them nightmares, headaches. One guy claimed he heard screams in the debris. The city brought in new workers. They'll finish by next week. But last night, a security guard patrolling the site swears he saw a figure in a hospital gown, standing in the wreckage, staring at the moon. When he shined his light, she was gone. All that remained was a single sketch in the dirt. A vulture, a ring, and the letters J. Clara hasn't left her room in days. The doctors say she's catatonic. Her mother says she's waiting. For what? No one knows. But outside, the wind carries the faint smell of smoke. Not wood, not plastic. Something older, something alive. Let's end this where it began, with questions. Not the ones we ask, but the ones that keep us awake. The ones that turn ordinary girls into ghosts and art into evidence. Why would 2 nations risk a diplomatic crisis over a missing painter? Because Jay isn't just a painter. He's a ledger, a receipt, a witness. Interpol found a bank statement in a safety deposit box linked to the Paris loft. 6 payments over 6 years, each from a different shell company, each matching the exact amount the Saudi embassy paid Ravenswood Academy in tuition donations. And each dated October 12th, the day Clara burned. Why erase a school instead of investigating it? Because Ravenswood wasn't a school. It was a lab, a petri dish for secrets. Every student there had a parent in a job that doesn't officially exist. Intelligence, black ops, arms brokering, and for years, the art wing ran a study abroad program. Unofficial trips to Paris, Dubai, Moscow, trips that never showed up on transcripts. Trips Clara and Miriam took 3 months before the fire. Why target 2 girls who were ordinary? Until they weren't. Because they saw something they shouldn't have. Not a crime, not a secret, a pattern. Clara's mother leaked one final document before the FBI seized her laptop. A Ravenswood alumni list. Of the 12 graduates from Clara's class, 7 now work in embassies. 2 died in accidents. 1 runs a private security firm. And the last 2, they vanished. Just like Miriam. But here's the question that matters. Who benefits? When Ravenswood shut down, its parent company, a shadowy LLC registered in Luxembourg, transferred $200 million to a bank in Cyprus. 3 days later, a Saudi prince bought a uranium mine in Kazakhstan. A Russian oligarch quietly acquired a lithium refinery in Chile. And a US senator's brother launched a tech startup specializing in wildfire prediction algorithms. All unrelated, all perfectly legal, all funded by a school that no longer exists. NJ, the painter without a face? Last month, a graffiti mural appeared in Berlin. A girl with scars, holding a match to a globe. The tag in the corner? A smudged J. Authorities power washed it away. But that night, a fire broke out in the Swiss embassy. No casualties, no arrests, just a single charred canvas found in the ashes. A painting of a desert, a forest, and a school all connected by a thread of blue flame. Clara's mother says she hears her daughter at night. Not screams, laughter. Soft, bitter, like wind through dead trees. Doctors call it PTSD. Therapists call it grief. But in Bahrain, Miriam's grandmother tells a different story. She says jinn, spirits made of fire, punish those who steal secrets. That they burn you twice, once your body, once your name. So let me leave you with this. 3 weeks ago, a fisherman in Norway found a body washed up on the shore. A man in a black coat. No ID, no teeth, no fingerprints. But in his pocket, a chess piece, a knight, carved from charred wood. And tucked inside it, a slip of paper with 2 coordinates. One for Ravenswood Academy, one for the Sonoran Desert. The Norwegian police closed the case in 48 hours. Cause of death? Drowning. No signs of struggle. No marks on his body. except for one detail they didn't release. His lungs were full of sand. Not from a beach, from a desert. Some fires aren't meant to be put out. They're meant to spread, to cleanse, to remind us that secrets don't burn, they transform. And somewhere, right now, another girl is staring at a painting. Another school is hiding a truth. Another Jay is signing his name, or maybe hers.